You're walking down a quiet road at night. No one around. No cars. No sound. But someone is watching you. Someone who believes killing you isn't just murder, it's entertainment. In the late 1960s, while California was selling peace, love, and flower crowns, a monster was stalking the shadows. Hippies were preaching kindness in Haight-Ashbury. Music festivals screamed freedom. The world thought humanity was evolving. It wasn't, because around that same time, a man decided to play God. He hunted strangers, picked victims at random, and then sent letters to the police, mocking them. Not hiding, not running, taunting. He signed those letters with a symbol, a circle with a cross through it. No name, just a mark. And that mark would become one of the most terrifying signatures in American crime history. By the time the attacks stopped, bodies were left in lovers' lanes, parks, and even broad daylight. Some survived. Most didn't. But the scariest part? We still don't know who he was. This is the story of the Zodiac Killer, the man who turned murder into a puzzle and the world into his audience. Our story begins on a cold winter night. December 20th, 1968, Lake Herman Road, a remote stretch of asphalt just outside Benicia, California. It's a Friday night, and the road is dark, isolated, surrounded by rolling hills and farmland. This particular spot has become popular among local teenagers and lovers, lane where young couples park to escape parental supervision and spend time alone together. On this night, two teenagers make the fateful decision to drive out there. David Faraday, just 17 years old, a high school student described by everyone who knew him as bright, kind, and full of potential. And Betty Lou Jensen, 16, a popular girl with her whole life ahead of her. They're on their first date together. They have no idea they're being watched. Around 11 p.m., the young couple is sitting in David's Rambler station wagon when another vehicle pulls up nearby. The details are murky because there are no survivors to tell the tale, but investigators would later piece together what likely happened in those final, terrifying moments. A figure emerges from the other vehicle. Perhaps David and Betty Lou think it's just another couple looking for privacy. Perhaps they think it's a police officer checking on them. We'll never know what went through their minds in those last seconds. Without warning, without any apparent motive, the attacker opens fire. David is shot in the head at point-blank range. He dies almost instantly. Betty Lou, sensing the danger, manages to open her door. She runs. She's young, athletic, desperate to survive. But the killer is methodical. He chases her down and shoots her 5 times in the back as she flees. She falls just 28 feet from the car. She dies before help arrives. A passing driver discovers the scene and calls the police. When investigators arrive, they find a horrific tableau. 2 young people, their lives ended in moments of senseless violence. The investigation begins immediately, but there's precious little to go on. No witnesses, no clear motive, no evidence left behind except shell casings. The killer has vanished into the night. Police canvass the area. They interview everyone who might have seen something. They develop theories. Perhaps it was a random act of violence. Perhaps a robbery gone wrong. Perhaps someone with a personal grudge. But nothing adds up. The case goes cold. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen become statistics. Another unsolved double homicide. But the killer isn't finished. Not by a long shot. 7 months pass. It's now the summer of 1969, the 4th of July, Independence Day, a time for celebration and fireworks. But in Vallejo, California, another nightmare is about to unfold. Blue Rock Springs Park sits near the Vallejo city limits, another popular spot for young couples. It's around midnight when 22-year-old Darlene Ferrin drives there with 19-year-old Michael Mago. They park in a relatively secluded area of the lot. The night is warm, and they're just talking, enjoying each other's company. Around midnight, a car pulls into the parking lot. It's a brown vehicle, possibly a Ford Mustang. The driver pulls up next to Darlene's car, then abruptly drives away. Darlene and Michael relax, thinking the person was just turning around or looking for someone else. But then, about 5 minutes later, the vehicle returns. This time, it parks directly behind them, blocking them in. A figure emerges from the car, carrying what appears to be a flashlight. The bright beam shines directly into their faces, blinding them. Perhaps they think it's a police officer or a security guard. Then, without any warning, without saying a single word, the figure opens fire. The sound of gunshots shatters the quiet summer night. The attacker fires 9 rounds at point-blank range. Darlene is hit multiple times. Michael tries to shield himself, but is also hit. His shooting is rapid, calculated, and brutal. When the gunfire stops, the attacker calmly walks back to his vehicle and drives away. Michael, despite his wounds, is still conscious. He's been shot in the face, neck, and body, but somehow he survives. He manages to flag down help. Emergency services rush both victims to the hospital, but it's too late for Darlene. She dies from her wounds. Michael miraculously survives. At the hospital, Michael provides the first description of the attacker: a stocky white male, somewhere between 26 and 30 years old, with a round face and curly light brown hair. He was wearing a blue windbreaker. The description isn't detailed enough to identify anyone specific, but it's something. Then, at approximately 40 minutes after the shooting, something extraordinary happens. The Vallejo Police Department receives a phone call. The dispatcher picks up the line and hears a male voice, calm and collected, almost businesslike. "I want to report a double murder," the voice says. "If you go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway, you will find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." The line goes dead. Police immediately trace the call. It came from a payphone at a gas station, not far from the police station itself. The caller has long since vanished. This changes everything. The phrase, "I also killed those kids last year," links this attack to the Lake Herman Road murders. Investigators now realize they're not dealing with isolated incidents. They have a serial killer on their hands. Someone who kills for reasons known only to himself. Someone who has the audacity to call the police and claim credit. The manhunt intensifies. Police set up a task force. They interview everyone who was in the area. They check on every brown Mustang in the region. They analyze the phone call, trying to extract any identifying information from the voice. But the killer remains elusive, a ghost who strikes and then disappears. And he's just getting started. 3 weeks pass. Then, on August 1st, 1969, something unprecedented happens. 3 major Bay Area newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, all receive identical letters in the mail. The letters are handwritten in blue felt-tip pen. The handwriting is distinctive, with certain letters formed in unusual ways. But it's the content that stops everyone cold. Each letter begins with the chilling phrase, "Dear Editor, I am the killer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman and the girl last 4th of July." Writer then provides details about the crimes that only the killer would know: the type of ammunition used, the positions of the bodies, specific details never released to the press. But that's not all. Enclosed with each letter is a bizarre cryptogram, cipher consisting of strange symbols, circles, crosses, and various characters. The cipher is split into 3 parts, 1/3 sent to each newspaper. The killer explains that the cipher contains his identity. Then comes the threat. I want you to print this cipher on the front page of your paper. If you do not do this, I will go on a kill rampage Friday night. I will cruise around all weekend killing lone people in the night, then move on to kill again until I end up with a dozen people over the weekend. The letter is signed with a symbol, a circle with a cross through it, like a Celtic cross or a gun sight. He doesn't give his name yet, but this symbol will become his calling card. The newspapers face an agonizing decision. Do they give a killer the platform he's demanding, potentially encouraging him? Or do they refuse and risk more deaths? After consulting with police, they decide to publish. The ciphers appear on the front pages. The story explodes across the nation. The killer has achieved exactly what he wanted: attention. But who is he? What does the cipher say? Enter Donald and Betty Harden, a school teacher and his wife living in Salinas, California. They become fascinated with the cipher, seeing it as an intellectual challenge. They spend hours at their kitchen table, trying different decryption methods, looking for patterns. After a week of intensive work, they crack it. The cipher uses a simple substitution method, but with multiple symbols representing the same letters to make it harder to solve. When decoded, the message is chilling and bizarre. I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the people I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name, because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife. The message reveals a deeply disturbed mind, someone who views murder as entertainment, who believes in some twisted version of the afterlife where his victims will serve him for eternity. It's the manifesto of a narcissist, someone who needs the world to know how clever he is, how much power he has. But the killer hasn't revealed his identity as promised. Instead, he's just taunting everyone. He's playing a game, and he's enjoying every minute of it. On August 7th, another letter arrives at the San Francisco Examiner. This one contains a phrase that will become infamous. This is the Zodiac speaking. He's given himself a name. The Zodiac Killer is born. In this letter, he provides even more details about the crimes to prove his authenticity. He also complains that the newspapers didn't print his letters prominently enough on the front page. He's obsessed with recognition, with fame, with the attention he's receiving. The Bay Area is now gripped by fear. Who is the Zodiac? When will he strike again? And most terrifyingly of all, how do you stop someone who seems to enjoy the game of cat and mouse more than anything else? Lake Berryessa, a popular recreation area about an hour north of San Francisco. The lake is surrounded by rolling hills, and the area is dotted with picnic spots and hiking trails. It's the kind of place where people go to escape the city, to enjoy nature and peace. Brian Hartnell, a 20-year-old college student at Pacific Union College, and Cecilia Shepard, a 22-year-old also attending the same college, decide to spend the afternoon at the lake. They spread out a blanket on a small peninsula jutting into the water, enjoying the sunshine and each other's company. They're just talking, relaxing, completely at ease in this beautiful, peaceful setting. Around 6:30 p.m., as the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, Cecilia notices something unusual. A man is approaching them from the tree line, walking in their direction. At first, they don't think much of it. It's a public area, after all. But as the figure gets closer, they realize something is very wrong. The man is wearing a bizarre costume that looks like something out of a horror movie. He has on a black executioner's hood, cloth bag pulled over his head with a triangular piece cut out for his face. Over the eye holes, he's attached clip-on sunglasses. He's wearing a dark jacket, and on the front of his chest, he's sewn or painted the now infamous Zodiac symbol, the circle with the cross through it. The sight is so surreal that Brian and Cecilia almost can't process what they're seeing. Brian would later describe a sense of unreality, as if he were in a dream or watching a movie. The hooded figure is carrying a gun, which he points at the couple. In a calm voice, the man tells them he's an escaped convict from a prison in Montana, Deer Lodge. He claims he's killed a guard and needs money and a car to get to Mexico. His voice is calm, almost friendly, which makes the situation even more unnerving. He asks them if they have any money. Brian explains they only have a few coins. The man seems to accept this. He tells them he's going to have to tie them up. He pulls out some clothesline and instructs Cecilia to tie Brian up first, giving her specific instructions on how to do it. She complies, her hands shaking. Once Brian is bound, the man ties up Cecilia, making sure the bindings are tight and secure. For a few moments, the man just stands there, looking at them. Brian tries to engage him in conversation, thinking maybe if he can establish a human connection, they might survive. The man is surprisingly talkative. He mentions the gun he's carrying, describing it in detail. He seems almost normal, which is perhaps the most frightening thing of all. Then, without any warning, the man sets down his gun and pulls out a knife. Everything changes in an instant. What happens next is an act of unimaginable brutality. The man attacks Brian first, stabbing him repeatedly in the back. Brian, bound and helpless, can do nothing but endure the assault. He's stabbed 6 times, the blade puncturing his back, his kidneys. The pain is excruciating, but Brian forces himself to stay quiet, to play dead, hoping the attacker will stop. Then the man turns on Cecilia. She's screaming, begging for her life, trying desperately to escape despite being tied up. The attacker stabs her 10 times in the back, the chest, the abdomen. The attack is frenzied, vicious, completely at odds with the calm demeanor the man had shown just moments before. Finally, it's over. The attacker stands up, looks at his handiwork, and then calmly walks away. He doesn't run. He doesn't seem panicked or agitated. He simply leaves as if he's completed a routine task. Brian, still conscious despite his injuries, hears the man walking toward their car. He hears what sounds like writing, a pen or marker being dragged across metal. Then he hears footsteps walking away into the distance. For several agonizing minutes, Brian and Cecilia lie there, bleeding in shock, unsure if the attacker is really gone or if he's watching from the trees. Brian manages to turn his head enough to see Cecilia. She's conscious, crying, in tremendous pain. They try to comfort each other, but they're both slipping in and out of consciousness from blood loss. Finally, another park visitor discovers them and calls for help. Ambulances rush them to the hospital. Brian survives, though he requires extensive surgery to repair the damage. Cecilia fights for her life for 2 days, but her injuries are too severe. She dies on September 29th. Meanwhile, back at the crime scene, investigators make a disturbing discovery. On the passenger side door of Brian's car, written in black marker, is a message: Vallejo 122068 7469, September 27th to 69630, by knife. 2 weeks later, the Zodiac strikes again, and this time he changes his pattern entirely. October 11th, 1969, a Saturday night in San Francisco. The Presidio Heights neighborhood is upscale and quiet, the kind of place where people feel safe. Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver working for Yellow Cab, is nearing the end of his shift. He's a graduate student at San Francisco State University, driving a cab to pay for his education. He has his whole life ahead of him. Around 9:30 p.m., Stein picks up a passenger in the theater district, near the intersection of Mason and Geary Streets. The passenger asks to be driven to the corner of Washington and Maple Streets in Presidio Heights. It's a straightforward fare, nothing unusual. The cab heads west through the city streets. When they arrive at the destination, something goes terribly wrong. The passenger pulls out a 9mm pistol and shoots Paul Stein in the head at point-blank range. Death is instantaneous. But the killer isn't finished. In a grotesque ritual, he tears off a piece of Paul Stein's shirt, taking it as a trophy. He then takes Stein's wallet and keys. Witnesses from nearby homes see a white male with glasses in the cab, apparently wiping down the interior, methodically removing fingerprints. The man then exits the cab and walks calmly north on Cherry Street. One of the witnesses calls the police immediately. There's a critical error in the dispatch. The suspect is initially described as a black male, possibly due to confusion or miscommunication. Within minutes, police officers respond to the scene. They're looking for a black suspect. As they approach the area, they actually see a white male walking away from the direction of the crime scene. He's stocky, wearing glasses, fitting the actual description of the killer. The officers stop him briefly. The man tells them he saw someone running away or that he lives in the area. The exact conversation is lost to time. Because the officers are looking for a black suspect, they let him go. They literally let the Zodiac Killer walk away. By the time police reach the cab and realize the actual description of the suspect, it's too late. The killer has vanished into the night once again. This missed opportunity will haunt the investigators involved for the rest of their lives. 3 days later, on October 14th, the San Francisco Chronicle receives a letter. Inside the envelope is a piece of blood-stained fabric section of Paul Stein's shirt. The letter, written in a now familiar hand, begins, "This is the Zodiac speaking." The killer provides details about the murder that only he could know. He describes the shooting, mentions taking Stein's wallet and keys, and then delivers a mocking taunt. He tells police that officers stopped him but didn't recognize him because they were looking for the wrong description. He's bragging about it, rubbing their faces in their failure. The letter continues with threats. The Zodiac says he's planning to shoot out the tires of a school bus and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. The threat is specific and terrifying. School districts across the Bay Area immediately implement security measures. Police escorts accompany school buses. Parents live in constant fear. Many keep their children home from school. Was the threat real? Did the Zodiac actually plan to attack a school bus? Or was this just another way to spread terror and maintain his control over the public consciousness? We'll never know, because he never follows through. But the psychological damage is done. In November 1969, the Zodiac sends another cipher, this one containing 340 characters, much more complex than the first. Despite the efforts of cryptographers, both amateur and professional, this cipher will remain unsolved for over 50 years. The letters continue to arrive sporadically. Some contain additional ciphers. Some include bizarre claims in one letter. The Zodiac claims to have killed 7 people, though police can only confirm 5 victims. He provides no evidence for these additional murders. In another letter, he includes a detailed diagram of a bomb he claims to have built, describing how he'll use it to blow up a school bus. Bomb experts analyze the diagram and determine that while it shows knowledge of explosives, the design wouldn't actually work as described. Is the Zodiac bluffing? Is he trying to appear more dangerous than he really is? The letters reveal a pattern. The Zodiac craves attention above all else. He demands that his letters be printed on the front pages of newspapers, threatening more violence if his demands aren't met. He criticizes the newspapers when they don't give him enough prominence. He's obsessed with his public image, with being known, with being feared. He also demonstrates a strange sense of humor, if you can call it that. He makes puns, includes references to pop culture, and seems to enjoy the game he's playing with police and the media. In one letter, he complains about a movie that depicted him unfavorably, showing that he's following his own coverage closely. The newspapers face an ongoing ethical dilemma. By publishing his letters, are they giving him exactly what he wants? Are they encouraging him to continue killing? But if they don't publish, will he make good on his threats? There's no good answer. The investigation into the Zodiac Killer becomes one of the most intensive manhunts in American history. Multiple law enforcement agencies form a task force: the Vallejo Police Department, the San Francisco Police Department, the sheriff's offices of Napa and Solano counties, and the FBI. Thousands of tips pour in from across the country. Every person who matches the vague description becomes a potential suspect. The composite sketch, based primarily on the observations of the teenagers who witnessed the aftermath of the Stein murder and Michael. Mago's description shows a white male with a round face, short brown hair, possibly wearing glasses. The description is so generic that it could match thousands of men in the Bay Area. Investigators pursue every lead, no matter how tenuous. They analyze the handwriting in the letters, comparing it to samples from suspects. They study the ciphers, hoping for clues about the killer's education, occupation, or psychology. They examine the envelopes and stamps for DNA, though genetic technology in the 1970s is primitive compared to today's standards. The letters themselves provide clues, but they're frustratingly vague. The Zodiac seems to have knowledge of cryptography, suggesting some education or interest in codes. He references movies and pop culture. He appears to be familiar with the Bay Area, knowing the best lovers' lanes and quiet spots. He's comfortable driving around at night. He has access to guns and ammunition. Psychological profiling, still a relatively new science in the late 1960s, suggests the killer is likely a white male in his 30s or 40s, possibly living alone, holding a job that gives him freedom of movement, potentially someone who seems normal and non-threatening to those who know him. He's organized, methodical, and intelligent enough to avoid capture despite significant police presence. But these profiles describe thousands of men. How do you narrow it down? Some investigators focus on the ciphers, believing they might contain hidden clues to the Zodiac's identity. The 340-character cipher, in particular, becomes an obsession for codebreakers around the world. Despite countless attempts, it remains unsolved for decades, fueling speculation that it might not actually say anything meaningful, that it might just be random, symbols designed to waste everyone's time. Other investigators focus on physical evidence: a partial palm print from the Lake Berryessa phone, possible DNA from saliva on the envelope flaps, fibers from the hood worn at Lake Berryessa. But forensic science in the 1970s has limitations, and much of this evidence can't be properly analyzed with the technology available at the time. Over the years, numerous suspects emerge. Each seems promising at first, but ultimately, none can be definitively linked to the crimes. The most famous suspect is Arthur Lee Allen, a former elementary school teacher and convicted child molester who lived in Vallejo. Allen first comes to police attention in 1971 when a friend reports suspicious statements Allen allegedly made, including references to hunting humans and calling himself Zodiac. The circumstantial evidence against Allen is substantial. He lived in the right area. He had military training and knew about weapons. Friends said he wore a Zodiac brand watch with a familiar symbol. He had size 10.5 feet, matching a print found at a crime scene. He was ambidextrous, which could explain some inconsistencies in the evidence. When police searched his home, they found weapons and other disturbing items. But there's a problem. Alan's fingerprints don't match the partial prints found on the Zodiac letters. His handwriting, according to experts, doesn't match the Zodiac's. And when DNA testing becomes available in the 1990s, DNA extracted from saliva on the stamps doesn't match Alan's DNA. Still, many investigators remain convinced Alan is their man, explaining away the discrepancies by suggesting he might have had an accomplice or used various techniques to disguise his handwriting. Alan dies in 1992, maintaining his innocence to the end. Other suspects include Ross Sullivan, a library employee with a troubled history who was in the right places at the right times. There's Lawrence Kane, a man with brain damage from an accident who exhibited violent tendencies. Rick Marshall, who lived in San Francisco and supposedly had suspicious connections to some of the victims. More recent theories have pointed to other individuals. A man named Earl Van Best Jr., proposed by a person claiming to be the Zodiac's biological son, though this identification has been disputed, and various others proposed by amateur sleuths and investigators over the years. Each suspect has compelling evidence. Each has significant problems with the theory, and none has ever resulted in charges being filed. After 1974, something changes. The regular stream of letters from the Zodiac slows to a trickle, then stops completely. His last confirmed authentic letter arrives in January 1974. In it, he claims a total of 37 victims, though police have no evidence of any murders beyond the confirmed 5, and possibly a few others. The letter is different from his previous communications, shorter, less theatrical, almost perfunctory. Some investigators wonder if the Zodiac is losing interest in his game, or if something has changed in his life. Then silence. The letters stop. No more ciphers. No more threats. No more taunting messages to the police. It's as if the Zodiac has simply vanished. Why did he stop? The theories are numerous. Perhaps he died. A car accident, an illness, a random tragedy that took him before he could strike again. This would explain the sudden cessation of communications. Perhaps he was arrested for another crime, maybe. Something unrelated to the Zodiac murders. He could be sitting in prison somewhere, serving time for a different offense, unable to continue his campaign of terror. Perhaps he moved away from the Bay Area, either voluntarily or due to work or family obligations. The letters and murders were tied to a specific geographic region. If he relocated, perhaps he lost interest or feared that continuing from a new location would increase his chances of capture. Perhaps he was institutionalized. Some psychological profiles suggested the Zodiac might be someone with serious mental illness. Maybe he had a breakdown and was committed to a mental health facility. Or perhaps he simply stopped because he achieved what he wanted. He'd become famous. His name was known. He demonstrated his power over the police and the public. Maybe that was enough. Maybe the game had lost its appeal. The case goes cold, but it never truly closes. Detectives continue to receive tips over the years. Whenever a similar crime occurs, investigators wonder if the Zodiac has returned, but nothing ever pans out. Then, in recent years, new technologies bring renewed hope to the investigation. DNA analysis improves dramatically. Genetic genealogy, the technique that famously identified the Golden State Killer in 2018, offers new possibilities. Investigators extract DNA from the Zodiac letters and work with labs to create genetic profiles. Advanced computing allows for new attempts at breaking the unsolved ciphers. Professional cryptographers and amateur enthusiasts form online communities, sharing theories and techniques. And in December 2020, something remarkable happens. A team of codebreakers consisting of David Oranchuk, a software developer, Jarl van Eyck, a Belgian programmer, and Sam Blake, an Australian mathematician, finally solved the 340-character cipher that had stumped everyone for 51 years. The solution comes through sophisticated computer analysis and a lot of clever thinking. When decoded, the message reads, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show," which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise. All the sooner because I now have enough slaves to work for me where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise, so they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradise death. Note the misspelling of paradise as paradise and other errors. The message offers no clues about the Zodiac's identity, just more of his bizarre philosophy about the afterlife. Still, solving the cipher after half a century is a remarkable achievement and demonstrates that progress on the case is still possible. In 2021, a cold case investigation team called the Casebreakers claims to have identified the Zodiac as Gary Francis Post, a man who died in 2018. They cite forensic evidence, including photographs and witness statements. However, both the FBI and local law enforcement agencies have not confirmed this identification, and many experts in the case dispute the evidence. The investigation continues. The FBI still maintains an active case file. Local agencies still receive and investigate tips. The Vallejo Police Department has even set up a dedicated page on their website for Zodiac information. The Zodiac Killer's confirmed reign of terror lasted less than 2 years, from December 1968 to October 1969 for the confirmed murders, with letters continuing until 1974. But his impact on American culture and criminal investigation has lasted more than 5 decades. The case changed how law enforcement handles serial killers. It demonstrated the importance of interagency cooperation. Multiple jurisdictions had to work together, sharing information and resources. It showed the value of criminal profiling and behavioral analysis. It highlighted the challenges of dealing with a killer who craves publicity and manipulates the media. The Zodiac also demonstrated something disturbing about human nature: our fascination with true crime, with mysteries, with the darkest aspects of human behavior. The case has inspired countless books, documentaries, movies, and investigations. Amateur detectives spend thousands of hours poring over evidence, developing theories, searching for the identity that has eluded professional investigators. The 2007 film Zodiac, directed by David Fincher, brought the case to a new generation, accurately depicting the obsessive nature of the investigation and the toll it took on those involved. The movie showed how the case consumed people's lives: journalists, detectives, civilians, all trying to solve the unsolvable puzzle. But beyond the fascination, beyond the mystery, beyond the pop culture phenomenon, we must remember the real human cost of the Zodiac's crimes. David Faraday was just 17 years old, a high school student with dreams of college and a career. His parents had to bury their teenage son right after Christmas. Betty Lou Jensen, 16, was described as bubbly and full of life. Her family had to cope with the senseless loss of their daughter, taken on what should have been an innocent first date. Darlene Ferrin, 22, left behind a young daughter who grew up without a mother. Her life was cut short on Independence Day, a holiday that should celebrate freedom, not memorialize tragedy. Cecilia Shepard, 22, fought for her life for 2 days after the Lake Berryessa attack before succumbing to her injuries. She was studying to become a teacher, wanting to help young people. Instead, she became another victim. Paul Stein, 29, was a graduate student driving a cab to pay for his education. He was simply doing his job when he was murdered. His cab should have been a place of work, not a death chamber. Michael Magaho and Brian Hartnell survived, but they carry scars, both physical and emotional, to this day. Brian has spoken publicly about his experience over the years, demonstrating remarkable courage. Michael has maintained more privacy, trying to move forward with his life despite the trauma. Their survival provided crucial information to investigators, and their bravery in reliving those horrible moments through interviews and police reports cannot be overstated. The families of the victims have lived with unanswered questions for over 50 years. They've endured countless false leads, disappointing dead ends, and the frustration of watching their loved ones' cases remain unsolved. Some family members have passed away without ever knowing who killed their loved ones or why. So we're left with questions that may never be answered. Who was the Zodiac Killer? Is he still alive today? An elderly man living quietly somewhere, his dark secret buried? Or did he die years ago, taking his identity to the grave? Did he really kill 37 people as he claimed? Or was he exaggerating, trying to seem more prolific and dangerous than he actually was? Why did he stop communicating? Did something happen in his life that prevented him from continuing? Or did he simply get bored with the game? 2 of his major ciphers remain unsolved. Do they contain his name? His location? Real information about additional crimes? Or are they just meaningless strings of symbols designed to waste everyone's time and maintain his mystique? The Zodiac Killer wanted to be remembered. He wanted fame, attention, power over others. He wanted to prove he was smarter than the police, more clever than investigators, capable of committing murder and getting away with it. In achieving that fame, he succeeded. His symbol is instantly recognizable. His case is one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in American history. But he also created something else, a determination that never fades. Every detective who's worked this case, every forensic specialist who's analyzed the evidence, every code breaker who's studied the ciphers, every family member who's never forgotten, they all represent hope. Hope that one day justice will be served. Hope that advances in technology will finally provide the answers that have eluded us for so long. Hope that someone somewhere will come forward with information that breaks the case wide open. If you have information about the Zodiac Killer case, law enforcement agencies want to hear from you. The San Francisco Police Department maintains a tip line. The FBI continues to investigate. It's never too late for the truth to emerge. Someone out there knows something, perhaps more than they realize. A strange comment from a deceased relative. An unusual behavior pattern. A piece of information that seemed insignificant at the time, but might be the missing piece of the puzzle. The identity of the Zodiac Killer remains one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. But mysteries are meant to be solved. Somewhere, the answer exists. The question is, will we find it? This documentary is dedicated to the memory of David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Ferrin, Cecilia Shepard, and Paul Stein. May their families one day have the answers they deserve. May justice, however delayed, eventually be served. And may we never forget that behind every true crime story, behind every mystery and investigation, there are real people whose lives were stolen, families forever changed, and communities forever scarred. The Zodiac Killer may have wanted to be remembered, but let us remember, more than anything else, the victims whose lives he took and the survivors whose courage inspired generations of investigators to never give up the search for truth.